Key events in the Book of Numbers. Welcome to our journey through the Book of Numbers, the fourth book of the Bible. Often overlooked, Numbers is filled with powerful stories of faith, rebellion, and God's unwavering guidance. In this video, we'll explore the key events that shaped the journey of the Israelites from Mount Sinai to the borders of the Promised Land. Let's dive in. Our story begins at Mount Sinai, where the Israelites had been camped for about a year. Here, God commanded Moses to take a census of the people, setting the stage for their journey. 1. The census of the Israelites, Numbers 1:4. In the opening chapters of Numbers, God instructs Moses to take a census of the Israelite men who are able to go to war, from each of the 12 tribes. This census not only counted the people but also organized the tribes into a structured camp, with each tribe having its specific place around the tabernacle. The census revealed that there were 603,550 men of fighting age, not including the Levites, who were set apart to serve in the tabernacle. This census was crucial as it prepared the Israelites for the challenges ahead, including battles against the inhabitants of Canaan. 2. The role of the Levites, Numbers 3:4. While the census prepared the Israelite warriors, the Levites were given a different task. They were assigned to care for the tabernacle and its furnishings. God instructed Moses to number the Levites separately and assigned each clan specific responsibilities related to the tabernacle's care and transportation. The Levites were critical to maintaining the spiritual integrity of the Israelite camp, ensuring that the tabernacle, the physical manifestation of God's presence among his people, was properly cared for during their journey. 3. The journey begins. Departure from Sinai, Numbers 10:11-36. After a year at Sinai, the time came for the Israelites to move toward the Promised Land. Numbers 10 describes the Israelites' departure from Mount Sinai, guided by the cloud of God's presence. When the cloud lifted from above the tabernacle, the Israelites set out. When it settled, they encamped. This journey was not just a physical relocation but a spiritual pilgrimage, with God leading his people through the wilderness toward their promised inheritance. 4. The people complain, Numbers 11. As the journey continued, the Israelites began to complain about their hardships. Despite the miracles they had witnessed, they longed for the food of Egypt, forgetting the oppression they had escaped. In Numbers 11, their complaints reached a point where Moses himself became overwhelmed by the burden of leading such a difficult group. Moses cried out to God, and in response, God provided quail to satisfy the people's cravings, but he also sent a plague as a consequence of their ingratitude. This event highlights the tension between God's provision and the people's lack of faith. 5. The appointment of the 70 elders, Numbers 11:16-30. In response to Moses' plea for help, God instructed him to gather 70 elders from among the Israelites. These elders were filled with the Spirit of God to help share the burden of leadership. This not only provided relief for Moses but also established a broader leadership structure among the Israelites. The appointment of the 70 elders marked an important moment in the governance of Israel, showing that leadership was to be a shared responsibility, guided by the Spirit of God. 6. The rebellion of Miriam and Aaron, Numbers 12. Even among leaders, challenges arose. In Numbers 12, Miriam and Aaron, Moses' siblings, spoke against him because of his Cushite wife and questioned his unique position as God's chosen leader. God defended Moses, affirming his special relationship with him. As a consequence of their rebellion, Miriam was struck with leprosy, though Moses interceded for her, and she was healed after 7 days. This event reinforced the seriousness of challenging God's appointed leadership. 7. The spies and the report on Canaan, Numbers 13:14. One of the most pivotal moments in the book of Numbers occurs in chapters 13 and 14, where Moses sends 12 spies to scout the land of Canaan. After 40 days, they returned with their report. While the land was indeed flowing with milk and honey, 10 of the spies focused on the formidable inhabitants and the fortified cities, spreading fear among the people. Only Joshua and Caleb urged the people to trust in God's promise and move forward. The people's fear and lack of faith led to rebellion, as they even talked of appointing a new leader to take them back to Egypt. God's response was severe. The generation that had doubted would not enter the promised land. Instead, they would wander in the wilderness for 40 years, until a new generation arose. 8. The rebellion of Korah, Numbers 16. Rebellion against God's chosen leaders continued with Korah, a Levite, along with Dathan, Abiram, and 250 other leaders, who challenged the authority of Moses and Aaron. They argued that all the people were holy, and questioned why Moses and Aaron should have such elevated roles. Moses, following God's instruction, set a test to demonstrate who God had chosen. The earth opened up and swallowed Korah, Dathan, Abiram, and their families, while fire from God consumed the 250 men offering incense. This event served as a stark reminder of the consequences of rebelling against God's appointed leaders. 9. The bronze serpent, Numbers 21:4-9. After years of wandering, the Israelites continued to grumble against God and Moses, leading to another divine judgment. This time, God sent venomous snakes among the people, and many were bitten and died. In response to the people's repentance, God instructed Moses to make a bronze serpent and set it on a pole. Whoever was bitten could look at the bronze serpent and live. This event is rich in symbolism, later referenced by Jesus in the New Testament as a foreshadowing of his own crucifixion and the salvation he would bring. 10. Balaam and Balak, Numbers 22:24. As the Israelites approached the promised land, the surrounding nations grew fearful. King Balak of Moab sought to curse Israel by hiring the prophet Balaam. However, God intervened. Despite his initial intent to curse Israel, Balaam was repeatedly compelled by God to bless them instead. This episode is particularly famous for the moment when Balaam's donkey, seeing an angel of the Lord blocking the path, spoke to warn him. Balaam's story illustrates that no curse can stand against God's blessing. 11. The sin of Moses and Aaron at Meribah, Numbers 21:13. At Meribah, the people once again quarreled with Moses due to a lack of water. God instructed Moses to speak to a rock to bring forth water, but in frustration, Moses struck the rock twice with his staff. Although water did flow from the rock, God rebuked Moses and Aaron for their lack of trust in him. Because of this act of disobedience, neither Moses nor Aaron would enter the promised land. This was a significant moment, showing that even the greatest leaders are not exempt from accountability before God. 12. The appointment of Joshua, Numbers 27:12-23. As the journey neared its end, God instructed Moses to appoint Joshua as his successor. Moses, knowing he would not enter the promised land, laid hands on Joshua in front of the assembly, passing on the mantle of leadership. Joshua's appointment marked the transition of leadership necessary for the next phase of Israel's journey, the conquest of Canaan. It was a moment of preparation and hope, showing that God's promises would continue beyond Moses' leadership. The book of Numbers is a powerful narrative of God's guidance, the consequences of rebellion, and the importance of faith and obedience. As the Israelites stood on the threshold of the promised land, they were reminded of the lessons learned through years of wandering, a legacy that would shape their future as God's chosen people. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more insights into the Bible.